Usually when I get up in the morning, come out to the kitchen and I'll look out the window, and Scruffy isn't always here. It depends on what time of the day it is. But sometimes I'll see Scruffy sleeping on the white comforter or in that cardboard box, the blue blanket draped over it, or even occasionally in this last year, she might be in the carrier. There is also a possibility she'd be down there on that orange chair, or the gray mat, or just somewhere on the deck. I have a hard time seeing if she's in the shelter from this angle. But I'm actually never this early. I haven't been able to get any sleep. I've been getting very, very little sleep and keep waking up. And so right now it's maybe an hour before sunrise. Sometimes I would see when at night, sometimes I'd see Scruffy sleeping here. I wouldn't turn on the lights, but there'd be just enough ambient light I can see Scruffy sleeping. But in the day, I'd be able to see him, or sorry, her, and then on cold or cooler mornings when the sun comes up, she'd be back in the garden, sunbathing on the rocks. When I'm standing here, so this one of my common things that I do in my normal routine is pass here through the kitchen, and I'll come to the window just to sneak a peek, see if I can spot Scruffy. And every time I look out now, I remember Scruffy's no longer going to be there. And right now, that realization hurts so much that I found the past couple days I can't even look through the window, or I don't want to look through the window, and it hurts me to look through the window now and look outside, and then even just the act of looking at this window from further inside the house makes me want to turn down my head and walk away and avoid the kitchen here. Just wanted to point out where I keep Scruffy's food. So I have a small section in my fridge that I kept for her. So it obviously started originally with the wet cat food. So I'd always mix in the wet cat food with the dry cat food and try to make the wet cat food last a little longer, since it's more expensive than the dry cat food. And so I needed some shelf space. And then I started doing rotisserie chicken scraps. And so I'd get these rotisserie chickens from Costco and try to pull off the skin and the fat and a little bit of the meat. I put it in these Ziploc bags and I freeze them, and then I pull out one bag at a time and keep it in the refrigerator, so it's always handy for meals. After the wild animal attack on the food bin, I didn't want to keep food outside anymore to make sure I don't attract the animals back. To try to keep Scruffy safe, and so I just wanted to point out she had a place in my fridge as well as many places in my house and many places in my heart. I've mentioned I've been stockpiling chicken scraps, saving them in the freezer for Scruffy. just count it. There are 16 bags. So this would last Scruffy quite a while. So maybe somewhere between 1 and 2 bags a week. As you can see, I was probably way too overly optimistic about how much time I still had left with Scruffy. This is a little more behind the scenes of when I'd come out to visit Scruffy. So let's start with the kibble. So I keep a container of Kirkland kibble here, and I have a couple different measuring cups. So small one, large one, and I measure out the kibble. I think that was the diatomaceous earth powder that I mix in the food sometimes for deworming. This is the pill crusher. I got that from my dad originally for all his medications, and came in handy for dealing with administering these flea pills. So I'd sneak it into Scruffy's food since I didn't think Scruffy would swallow a pill, and that worked fine. And this is the second container of kibble that I keep, and this is the Meow Mix. So usually for lunch I give Scruffy the Meow Mix, and for dinner I mix in the Kirkland kibble into the wet cat food and rotisserie chicken scraps. And then that's also when I would mix in the diatomaceous earth every now and then. It was not something I did a lot, but once in a while when I thought it was time. And then I keep a whole bunch of balls here. There's more, I think, in the dishwasher, but I have probably about 4 or 5 more golf balls lying around, so I don't always have to wash them every night. And then I have a couple food bowls here, so that's some of them are in dishwasher. Yeah, so the dishwasher here. So these are the lunch bowls, and a lot of times I use this one for the water bowl, and then sometimes I use those for the water bowl if I run out. And then behind me I have more spare plates and more bowls, and then over here at the edge of the counter more bowls just in case. And then you may remember the sliding lock broken latch problem I had. And then right here on this edge is where I often kept my camera sitting ready to go, especially because of my swollen battery. I would make sure to disconnect it and bring it back here. So I felt that this it's granite. If the battery caught on fire, maybe there'd be minimal catching, because I tried to keep the space clear. Now that I have the battery fixed, it's been a nice thing not having to worry about. Ironically, yeah, I've only had this new battery for maybe a month. Cool. So I was planning to make a lot more videos with Scruffy, and don't need to now. And then these are the locks of hair that I cut Scruffy when I got her body from my neighbor. So I got some white fur here, and forgot, I think it's gray fur, and then I think it's the brown fur. I'm sorry, and this is kind of the gold orange. It's really hard to see. That's right there. The gold hair. So this is sort of the diamond, like the color from the diamond on her back. And so anyway, I'm planning to get some bottles, I think, to permanently store these. I just needed to get them somewhere as I was cutting it off, and make sure, yeah, they didn't get lost. So I put them in some Ziploc bags for now and put them here so they're not going to get blown away and or stolen by some animal. And then let me spin over here. So when I realized I'd be sitting at the door in the early days, trying to get Scruffy to trust me enough that I could get closer, I just wanted to sit at the door. So in the early days, the very first days, Scruffy would put out the kibble near the door, and then Scruffy, when saw the coast was clear, would come for the kibble, and then if she saw me through the window, she'd stay away. And so I needed to slowly work up her confidence, and so I needed to be back here. And then even after that, as we started actually directly interacting, a lot of times I felt like I needed to sit at the door before immediately coming out, just to make her comfortable. I didn't want to quickly rush out the door and bring out the food, because I knew she was really, really skittish. And so part of the ritual was start sitting in the chair. I preferred sitting over standing because a human is very tall compared to a cat, so it looks more imposing. I felt if I was sitting down, it'd feel less threatening. So I always tried to, or mostly tried to, always start the greeting by sitting in the chair and then opening the curtain. And then this, I'm going to point out because it's now really ingrained in my memory. The noise that it makes when I open the curtains and unlock the door and open the screen, it's drilled into my head. So every time I hear that sound, I think it's Scruffy time, it's showtime, we're going to do a meal. And so usually when I do that, I'm expecting Scruffy to be usually right in front of this door here, waiting for me. And then when she's not there, I get puzzled, and I usually haven't been too worried because she's usually just right over there, or maybe a little further back. And I only start getting a little concerned when I don't see her. But I also know that a lot of times she's just out of sight, so I usually don't panic. And then the next thing I hear is the latch and the opening, and then finally the latch and the screen. And I think the other reason it's really, really drilled in my head is when I edit these videos.
Hey, Scruffy.
This is the first thing I do, and sometimes I will trim some of these parts depending. And then when I test the videos and play them, this is the first thing I hear. So I'm hearing this multiple times a day, and it's just completely ingrained as part of my routine with Scruffy. I think I should come out a little earlier, but it's still a good time. So on colder days, when the sun's out, Scruffy likes to hang out on those rocks back there, and she would sunbathe to get some heat, get some warmth. And so a lot of times from the kitchen window, I'd see her perched on these rocks, just getting some sun. And occasionally I'd catch her if she wasn't on the rocks. Sometimes I'd actually see her on this platform. This is really hard to see from the house, but sometimes I might see she moved her tail or something, and I just happened to be in the right spot. Yeah, so these rocks, so this whole garden has a history. My dad did everything here, so he built the deck and he did all the landscaping himself. He is a real handyman. jack of all trades, amazing. So I remember these rocks. So he had to get these rocks from somewhere else and bring them here. And he recruited me and a few friends to basically help him move all the rocks. And actually, these rocks were not always here. So he had, through the years, redone the landscaping, and so these rocks actually were in other places of the garden. And then when he redid things, he eventually built this final little rock garden here that you see today. And it's fortunately, from the drought we had, a lot of the plants have died, so we have little buckets here, and this one's not doing too good. And this time of year, actually, they don't really bloom much either. There's like a little flower on that one still. But I think it's really nice that Scruffy put this section of the garden to good use. Let me go back. Oh yeah, so I keep this ratty covering over the table just because I don't use it that often, and we get a lot of dust and other things that settle on all the furniture, and I don't clean enough. So I try to keep covers on to make it less hard to clean up when I actually need them. But I wanted to point out this ratty hanging thread. It's related to, I think, the one and only time I've ever seen Scruffy play. So Scruffy, despite all my efforts, I could not get her to play. I figure it's just because she's a senior cat and lived a rough life, so there's no time to play. You know, everything's about survival. But one day, I saw her galloping, like hopping, like skipping, hopping, galloping across the deck, and then she swatted at this dangling fabric from the table, and then I think hopped away, and she didn't know I was watching, and I was so lucky to have had the camera close by, so I actually got a little bit of that footage. I had really hoped to do something, like get her to fully play, but I was never able to get her to do that, and I never saw her do that again. I've never even seen her gallop or hop ever again. I really wanted that for her. I thought maybe if she became a full-blown house pet, she'd finally be able to do that. And so if you could really go back far, you might remember when I bought the original string toy. This was from Dollar Tree, I think, and she was terrified of it. And then I put food on it, and then she was trying to eat it, and then I think she gagged on it or something, and she got terrified. Or she got terrified and gagged on it, and then ran around the corner, and it was stuck in her mouth. And then I was kind of laughing, and I followed her out, and she was long gone. It was dark. I couldn't see where she went. She was probably under the deck or in the bushes. But this was left on the sidewalk, so she got it dislodged and was just hanging there. So after I saw her play that first time, I decided to dangle it from the table, hoping that one day I'd catch her just batting at it through the window. But as I said, she never did that. And then I also made my own version of the string toy using that same fabric that she originally bat. Unfortunately, she never used it. So I'm a little embarrassed about how big a mess the house is, but I'm going to show some of this clutter I've accumulated anyway. So this is the automated pet food dispenser box that I bought for Scruffy. So I was always worried about those days that, one, I wouldn't be here because I had to work or travel or something, but I underestimated how bad the lockdowns would affect me. So it's
not been a big issue. I've only used the feeder a few times. This was the shipment of more cat food and the straw that I talked about. So the straw really made a difference, and wish I'd known about that sooner. Below here is the new Rubbermaid container that I put the dry kibble in, and now it's inside. So after the presumably raccoons destroyed the last container trying to get the kibble, and that was a week or two ago, I realized I better not keep the food out because I don't want the raccoons to get scruffy. And I have a lot of mixed feelings right now about that because I'm logically that was the right thing to do, but raccoons still got scruffy, and it's just one of those. What the hell? And I know I shouldn't go there, but I get into the what ifs, and one of the what ifs is so what if my change in behavior, so the two changes, but what if this was a butterfly effect? So what if me bringing in the kibble and not storing it out there caused the raccoons to not come here but stay where actually Scruffy got killed? And then two, me bringing in the food rather than letting Scruffy eat the scraps when I go inside, decided Scruffy, she wanted to get more food because I didn't give her all the food, and so she went out and explored to try to find more food, and that decision actually was what led her and the raccoon to meet, because maybe normally she would eat here and then leave, do her normal neighborhood patrol, and then maybe the raccoons come, don't find any food, and then go away, and then when Scruffy comes back, the raccoons are long gone. And then by me tampering with the procedure, Scruffy and the raccoons ended up in the same place because the raccoons didn't come back here, and then Scruffy went looking for food and happened to encounter the raccoons. I know I shouldn't be thinking about that, but that's one of those things I kind of stopped thinking about. So this is the last shipment of food I bought for Scruffy. It's not even open. Not sure what I'm going to do with it. I don't know if it's too late to try to return it. This also had the self-groomer, which it's been installed but never used. I don't know if I can return that though, because I did use the double-sided sticky tape to mount it, but it wasn't that expensive. So I wanted to talk about Scruffy's food on tap. So I keep these boxes here for Scruffy's ready for Scruffy. So this is the seafood and poultry favorites. So this is the meaty pate. So 3 flavors. And then this is the hearty cuts, poultry, beef, and favorites. And the real chicken and fish and gravy is the smelly fish. So I won't talk about the whole history of how I ended up with these foods, but there wasn't enough hearty cuts, so I could only buy one of those. And so I bought 2 of the meaty pates, 1 of the hearty cuts, and I just kind of kept doing that. And so that means I'd always go through 2 hearty cuts, and then 2 meaty pates, and then I'd switch to hearty cut, and then I'd go back to the next 2 meaty pates. And so I'd always keep a can on top to remind me what the next flavor is. And so that's how I did Scruffy's rotation, and tried to ensure that she got some variety. But Scruffy was never a picky eater. She pretty much ate everything. I never had to worry about her fussing, unlike like my neighbor's cat. So reach down here. So my neighbor's cat's very, very picky. And so, actually that's not good. So this is the fancy Tiki cat food, non-GMO ingredients. This is the really high quality stuff. It's so high quality, it's actually human food grade edible. So this stuff is probably better quality than some of the stuff I eat normally. So my neighbor gave me a few, so I've almost used them up, but I kept them on reserve in case I ever run out of cat food, because early on that was a problem for me. I went out and I bought a whole box of golf balls to do the slow feeder bowl thing, because I didn't know where to buy just one golf ball. I looked at Dollar Tree; they didn't have like single golf balls, but the bigger balls actually came from Dollar Tree. Actually, reach for this last thing here, and this is it's catnip and silver vine and honeysuckle and valerian root. So I talked about it before, but oops, yeah, Scruffy's immune to all four of those things, and that's why Scruffy's a hard mode cat. So all the little things you could do to make it a little easier to tame a feral won't work on her. She think a cat would fall in love with you if you gave her one of these things, but yeah, it doesn't work on her. So yeah, so that one's the spray bottle of catnip, and then all these other things are the actual leaves. And then, oh yeah, that's the Fellaway Classic spray to make a cat feel secure and comfortable. So I'd spray it on new things like the brush or something I needed to expose Scruffy to that wouldn't threaten her. And then I guess finally, food grade diatomaceous earth. And so this was what I was putting in the food on occasion, not that often, for deworming. So we've been holding on to Scruffy's leftover cat food, wet cat food. I was hoping she'd come back to eat it, but we all know her fate, and I know she's not going to be able to eat her food, so I'm reluctant to throw it away, but it's going to go bad. So I need to finally give up the food and accept. Scruffy's not going to come back for it. Somebody is sometimes comes to this park where I go running and they leave trays of food or water, and I don't know when the last time they filled this box, but and they would leave the cat food here, since cats probably know to check this area. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to leave what I saved for Scruffy. Plate of the rest of the meaty pate from the can, and I also saved a mixture of kibble and meaty pate and rotisserie chicken skin. And oh, I think I forgot to bring the rest of the rotisserie chicken skin. Oh, that's the meaty pate. Mix them up. And cat doesn't care what order I put it in, 1, 2, or 2, 1. So hopefully one of the other feral cats around here will benefit tonight. And I hope it's not a raccoon that picks it up. So I guess this is other stuff. So goodbye to Scruffy. And back at the hole where Scruffy gets in out of the yard, and also other animals. I always debated if I should close that hole once I learned that animals were getting in there. And at one point, if you recall, I closed the hole because I was worried the other cats were coming in, and I didn't want more cats, and I didn't want them fighting with Scruffy. I closed that hole, but Scruffy was on the inside. My thinking was, if Scruffy can still get out, then she can get back in. But if she can't get out, that's probably okay. She's safer in my yard. What happened was she figured out a different one-way door where she could get out, but she couldn't get back in. And we spent a few days undoing that damage. Once I found out she had left the yard and couldn't get back in, I removed the barrier. But it took her a while to find and go back in the hole. So it was a few days, a little rough. But and so I left the hole open all this time. But now that Scruffy's gone, I'm wondering if I should finally close it. And that will prevent any more animals, hopefully, from getting in, which may or may not be a good thing. So Scruffy found me because of this hole. On one hand, maybe fate will tell me I should leave this hole open and send another cat that needs me. Or maybe I need another cat. But on the other hand, I don't know if I can do this again. So I'm tempted to close the hole. But I think for now, since I don't know what to do, the best course of action is do nothing. Famous oath, do no harm. So I think for today, I'm going to leave it alone. It's now past dinner time with Scruffy, so this usually wraps up my interactions with her for the rest of the night, with the exceptions of possible midnight snacks. But the issue of lights has always been at the back of my mind, and I realized I've also been on autopilot with the way I use the lights in the house. Particularly early on, I didn't want to be excessively cruel to Scruffy with her seeing the lights from the outside. So this kitchen has two lights. There's the main lights, and then there's an extra set of smaller lights that it acts almost as a nightlight. And so what I was worried about was, particularly early on, that I might be coming in and out of the kitchen and Scruffy would see the light come on, and then I might fake her out because she might think that because I just turned on the lights, sort of like what I just did not too long ago to feed her dinner, I might be coming out again to feed her again. So she might end up going to the doormat and sitting there hoping that I'm going to come out. And then I, finish what I'm doing in the kitchen and leave again, turn off the light. And I was worried that if she was confused by the light as a signal, it'd be kind of excessively cruel to do that to her. So what I devised was, at least if I can avoid it, not turn on the main kitchen light anymore through the rest of the evening, and instead, when I leave the kitchen, right after I'm done with Scruffy, turn on the quote unquote night light and try to use that for the rest of the night. And so I'll be in a low light situation, but from the outside, the light won't change. And I hope Scruffy won't get confused. And so now I'm realizing, this part of the routine no longer really makes sense for me. So I can actually, I guess, turn off the lights now and turn them on when I need them. And I feel like it still feels wrong for some reason.
It's early morning again. It's been a few days since I recovered Scruffy's body. I'm still waking up with heartache and then tears. I think about looking out the window, and as I approach the gut pain I feel that I know she's not going to be here, makes me want to turn away from this room. But I think I'm also partly in denial because I keep looking out the window anyway, thinking maybe she'll be there. And maybe I made a mistake and mistook the cat I saw the other day as Scruffy. Maybe it was a different cat. Because I usually see Scruffy in different lighting conditions. The fur color looks a little off, and so maybe it was just a cat kind of like Scruffy, but because the body wasn't in great condition and the lighting conditions were different, it could have been a different cat. But I know better. When I clipped the locks of fur, I knew exactly where to go, and when I stroked her ear, it was that clipped ear, and the subtle calico markings that she had on her ears and face. She had very unique features, very subtle, but very distinct when you knew what to look for. On a lot of days and nights, I'd always start worrying I needed to get back in time to feed Scruffy. I didn't want to disappoint her, and I was trying to keep a consistent schedule because I was trying to tame her, and I knew consistency was an important attribute to the success. And definitely there were times that crossed my head that this was feeling like an obligation or a burden sometimes. But I was always happy to do it. But I now realize, it was never a burden. It was a privilege. And I wish I could have that privilege back. I keep a clock above the kitchen sink, and it's separate from real time. It's been changed to keep track of Scruffy's meal time. So particularly because of daylight saving time changes twice a year, I didn't want to change her feeding time because I knew she wouldn't know what daylight savings time was. So I tried my best to keep a consistent schedule, and so I'd keep one clock in the kitchen that was almost never changed to keep the exact schedule. I wasn't always successful. Sometimes my schedule would have enough conflicts where I'd be late or something where eventually I had to succumb to the current daylight savings situation. But I tried my best to always avoid it, and so this clock would try to keep me on schedule, because when you're on one clock and the feeding schedule's on another clock, it's hard to keep track in your head. I just noticed that the battery had died, and it's time to change the battery again. So it's again one of those moments where I realize that this part of my routine no longer makes sense in my life.
I want to wrap up this video. Thank you for the love you've given Scruffy over the last 3 years, and the support you've given me over these last few days. Fate picked a very specific day for Scruffy to disappear. YouTube alerted me that it was the 3-year birthday of this channel, but also it was exactly 1 year ago that marked the closest Scruffy and I had gotten in our relationship. That was the day where Scruffy injured her leg and was causing her to limp the most. For that one day, we both let our guards down, and I tried to comfort her with pets using my bare hand. It is as if the universe chose this day to be exceptionally cruel. It reminds me of paths not taken. Maybe I should have pressed harder following that day to further tame Scruffy instead of the path I chose. Maybe Scruffy could have been an inside cat with a good forever home by now, instead of encountering that raccoon. When Scruffy first went missing, a certain melancholy song got stuck in my head. But it was so subtle, I wasn't consciously aware of it. After I received Scruffy's body and learned of her fate, the song got stronger. After a while, I fully became aware of the song and tried to figure out what the song was. I finally figured it out. It was one of the main songs from a small indie game called Finding Paradise by Can Reeves Gal of Freebird Games. I played it once, maybe back in 2018, so I'm a little surprised this memory surfaced now, and in the way it did. My subconscious is trying to tell me something. I would like to play this song so you can hear it, but I have to be careful of copyright. While I hope the copyright holders will ignore me because I highly praise and strongly recommend the games and the music, copyright does allow for fair use, which includes things like commentary and transformative use. So if you'll indulge me, I'm going to do just that. And as I do that, you'll probably see some connections between the game and my life with Scruffy that maybe my subconscious was connecting. First, this game, Finding Paradise, is actually a single episode of a greater whole. The most famous and first episode is called To the Moon. It has developed an urban legend saying the game will make you cry. While To the Moon is the titular game of the series, the following 2 games have more relation to my journey with Scruffy. A Bird Story is a tiny preamble game that sets the stage for the next full episode, Finding Paradise. The concept of the entire series is, what if you could hire a service with a machine that could erase and rewrite your memory on your deathbed? What if you could change one major thing about your life to fulfill an unrealized dream or live a life without any regrets? So right before you die, you get to relive your entire life over in your mind and you can try to die believing you got to live your ideal life. The entire series explores love and loneliness, the imperfections in life, what ifs and regrets, and acceptance. In A Bird Story, we are introduced to a very young, shy, and isolated boy because of his very busy parents and no friends. One day he finds an injured bird and rescues it. Through his friendship with the bird, he begins to come out of his shell, but ultimately he has to face letting go of the bird. In Finding Paradise, the boy is now a dying elderly adult wishing to use the machine. We learn he does not remember the events of A Bird Story because he was too young at the time, but we do see how it had an impact on his subconscious, which rippled through his entire life in subtle ways. A song that was in my head is called Phase Theme, which is one of the main songs of Finding Paradise. The game actually brings the song into the story of the game and brings attention to the fact that it is a scale, 7 basic successive notes. Despite being presented as a simple training scale in the game, the song evolves into a rich piece that has several variations. There's a variation played earlier which has a multitude of different instruments, including something like a music box or a glockenspiel playing the melody. While overall the song is surrounded in an environment of sadness, it also invokes feelings of innocence, hopefulness, and playfulness, as if we can still achieve all our dreams. But a variation played at the end is a piano-only rendition. The song also shifts down an octave, so the bass notes carry a much heavier weight. The innocence and hopefulness give way to a matter-of-fact feeling, as if the song is now looking back, telling us how things turned out, compared to when we were looking forward with hopeful innocence. But in exchange for our loss of innocence, the outcome is still rich and beautiful in its own right. And while not the perfection we dreamed of, there is a feeling of acceptance, that it's okay things didn't work out perfectly. A lot can probably be dissected about Scruffy and me, and why my subconscious picked this song. Perhaps as a scale, it resonates with my ongoing progression of steps, forwards and sometimes backwards, to try to tame Scruffy. And with Scruffy, there was always an overtone of sadness because I knew someday I'd either have to give her up if I could find her a perfect forever home, or I'd possibly lose her. I knew she was a senior cat, so I already felt a sense of time running out. And when she went missing, my subconscious knew the other bad possibility I didn't want to face. But despite the looming sadness in the backdrop, our day-to-day meetings were full of happy moments, playfulness, and innocence, just like the song. And maybe ultimately, my subconscious knew I'd beat myself up for Scruffy's death and regret all the choices not taken with Scruffy over the past 3 years. But as I sit here today, I don't think I'm emotionally at the acceptance stage yet. So maybe my subconscious was being more blunt. Like in the game, I wish I could erase my memory and make a different choice. Like 1 year ago, what if I had pressed harder to tame Scruffy? What if I had kept trying barehanded pets after that day? What if I had tried harder to lure her inside and keep her there, since she had that limping leg? The other major song in Finding Paradise is called Wish My Life Away by Laura Shigehara. The lyrics in the song directly address this question. Would I make this wish and completely erase everything from this last final year with Scruffy? If I could lose my own skittishness about copyright, I would make a montage of Scruffy clips to Wish My Life Away. It is a beautiful song that also fits perfectly with what's going on here. But I will end this video with clips from 1 year ago. Imagine if this could have been the way things ended with Scruffy instead of how it actually happened. I still wish badly Scruffy could have had a happy ending.